Welcome back to All About the Sound. In All About the Sound, we're focusing mostly on the sounds of the word and the word parts that we are hearing in the English language. But for Chapter 2, we are going to take a U-turn away from sound to look at meaning of each word. In particularly, we're going to look at something called affixes and word roots. Affixes change the meaning of words. So this chapter then will be focusing on affixes and how they change the meanings of our word roots. So if you have a book, open up to chapter 2. If not, just listen along. So we're steering away from sound to the meaning of words. And please remember that meaning will always be important in language learning. Meaning will always be important in language learning. In Chapter 2, we are taking a U-turn from sound to meaning. Meaning in language learning will always be important, so please have a Canadian dictionary with you. So when we're talking about the meaning of words, what each word may mean as far as their definition goes, we are going to be introduced to another word, morphemes. Morphemes are the basic units or the smallest unit of meaning in a word. In the previous chapter, we were introduced into phonemes, which were the basic units of sound in a word. We were introduced to graphemes, which are the letters or letter combinations that represent the basic units of sound in a word. And now we're talking about morphemes. Morphemes are the basic or smallest unit of meaning in a word. Words can be broken down into their parts when we're searching for the meaning or the morphemes in the word. The basic meaning of a word comes from the word root. Every word will start with a root, just like a plant or a tree will start with their roots. So the roots represent the basic meaning in the word. A word root is a free morpheme from which a word grows. So we start with the word root and we can create meaning based on that word root. Our word roots, where we usually house the major meaning of the word or the morpheme, our free morpheme means it can stand alone as a word. So a word root can stand alone as a word. Let's look, for example, at the word frost. F-R-O-S-T, frost. And frost is something you become very familiar with in Canada. It is the process or a state of being partially frozen. Frost. That is a word root. It stands on its own. We can actually build from this word as well. As if we were still looking at the word root, we would look at that middle car on this little chain as the word root. Affixes are word attachments that attach themselves at the beginning of the word, before the word root, or at the end of the word after the word root to change the meaning of that word. So the middle part could be seen as the word root frost. We can add a beginning to it, which would be the engine in the front of the train, Or we could add an ending to it, which would be the caboose at the back of the train. We are building on the word frost with our affixes. Now these affixes will change the meaning of the word. Prefixes, prefixes, attach themselves at the beginning of a word before the word root. Suffixes attach themselves at the end of the word after the word root. Prefixes are before, suffixes are at the end. Prefixes are at the beginning of a word, and suffixes are the endings of words. Now, both prefixes and suffixes cannot stand on their own as words. They are only there to enhance or change the meaning of the word root. From this little diagram, we see the prefix at the beginning of the word before the word root, and we see the suffix at the ending of the word or after the word root. Both prefixes and suffixes are bound morphemes, meaning they cannot stand alone as words. Let's go back to the word root frost. F-R-O-S-T, frost, which can be a state of being partially frozen, or it can be the action of partially freezing, frost. Now we could add the prefix de to frost, and de or de means opposite or undoing. We can change both the spelling and the meaning of the word when we add that prefix. De at the beginning because it's a prefix, frost, defrost, defrost. Now, the word frost has been changed. Frost is a part of the freezing process. It can be a noun, a thing, or a verb, an action. The frost is heavy on the windshield on winter mornings. The frost in this sentence is a noun. You will see and hear or feel this frost a lot in Canada. If you've been here for a while, you may have noticed that you've had to scrape your windshields quite a bit on winter mornings. Or we could say, using frost as a verb, I will frost the glasses before I pour the drinks. Adding a prefix. Now when we add the prefix de to the word root frost, we change the meaning altogether. De means the opposite of or to undo. I will defrost the freezer. When I defrost the freezer, I'm undoing the frost that is there by allowing it to melt. I am doing the exact opposite as I would be if I were frosting. So that little prefix, 2 letters at the beginning of the word root frost, changes the meaning entirely, doesn't it? Adding a suffix. We can add a suffix to the end of a word after the word root to change the meaning of the word root as well. We can add, for example, ed to the end of this word to change the meaning to something that happened in the past. Ed is a very common suffix used in the English language. And when we use it, we change the tense of the word. we explain by using that ed that this is something that happened in the past. Let's look at an example. I defrosted the fridge yesterday. So not only did I add the de prefix before the word root frost, I have now added the ed suffix after the word root frost to change the meaning. We've changed it from a past or present or future tense to a past tense, something that happened before. Or we can add ing, which is another very common suffix heard in the English language. We add the ing, because it is a suffix, to the end of the word to change the meaning to something I am doing now. Ing implies something that is happening or I'm doing in this present time, now. I am defrosting the freezer now. I defrosted the fridge yesterday, and I am defrosting the freezer now. Affixes change the meaning and the spelling of a word root. For a list of commonly used word roots, prefixes, and suffixes, please check out the tables on page 40 to 48 of your book. Though there are many, many choices for prefixes in the English language, here are a few of the most common prefixes you will find and their meaning. The ones that are bolded belong to the 4 most common prefixes found in English schools today. So let's begin with a few of them. Anti, A-N-T-I, anti, which means against. I put that in front of the word root freeze, anti-freeze, against freezing, to prevent freezing. De or de, opposite, undo. Put that in front of the word root frost, defrost. Dis, 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 opposite of, disagree, the opposite of agreeing. Ir, not. Put that in front of the word root regular, I have irregular, not regular. En, which means cause to. Put that in front of the word code, and I have encode, a word you'll be seeing quite regularly. Inter, between. Put that in front of act, and I have interact, the process of acting between two or more people. Miss, M-I-S, means wrongly. Put that in front of spell, misspell, and we have not spelled correctly. We have spelled wrongly. Non, N-O-N, not. Put that in front of the word root sense, and we have nonsense, the opposite of making sense. Pre, before. We've seen this in the word prefix already. Prefix is the affix that comes before the word root. Pre. Re means again. Redo, to do it again. Re. Un, un, not. You can put it in front of the word root wise, unwise. So those are just a few of the prefixes. Your chart that's in the book, of course, cover many more prefixes. And there still might even be more besides the ones I've included in your book. So have a look on page 40 to 48 of your text. We can also use common English suffixes. And here is a list of some of them and their meaning. Again, I will stress that there are many more suffixes in the English language. even more than there are on the tables I provided in my book. But you can go and check those pages out between 40 and 48. For now, let's look at a few of the more common ones that we will see. Those that are bolded are considered to be the 4 most common English suffixes found in English schools today. And they include ed, ed, ing, ing, ly, li, and es, s. So let's start with the first one we have on our list here. Able, A-B-L-E, able. It means that it can be done. The word I provided is comfortable. The word root is comfort. The suffix is able. And this means that it is possible to have a condition of comfort. Comfortable. Are you comfortable in your new slippers? The next one is al, A-L, having characteristics of, or being related to. So the example we're using here is personal. Personal. The word root is person, and we've attached the suffix al to person. So now we have characteristics of being a person. Are these your personal belongings? Are these your personal ideas? Ed, ed. Ed is the past tense of a verb. So we're using ed when we have verbs. We used it in defrosted. We had frost as our word root, de as our prefix, and ed as our suffix. The next one is en, en, and that means made of. Wooden. The word root is wood, and we've attached n to it. The wooden spoon. Er, and that can have 2 different meanings. The first one can be compared to, as in higher. We are comparing something that is high with something that is higher. Or it can also refer to one who is. So one who sings is a singer. Then we have est, est, which is also compared to. So we had high, higher, highest, or in this sample we have big, bigger, biggest. So we're comparing, this is the biggest. Ing, present tense of a verb. So we used ing in our defrost example. For defrosting, I am defrosting the freezer now. Ing. Jin, which comes in many different spelling forms, I'm just giving the one now, T-I-O-N, means act or process. So the example we're using is celebration. Celebration. The process of celebrating is celebration. Then we have less, L-E-S-S, which means without, and the example we're using here is fearless, without fear. Then we have ly, which is also characteristic of or like, so we have it used in a verb formation, quickly, which makes it an adverb describing how fast something was. He ran by quickly. He ran quickly. So quickly. ment, meant, is also action or process. Retirement is the process of retiring. So retire was our word root, and we attached meant to it to make it a process, the process or action of retiring. And then we have es, which means more than one, and it is the plural suffix used in certain spelling formations, especially when we have an X at the end, and also if we end with an S. We will use ES instead of just S. So ES happens to be one of those 4 most common used suffixes in the English schools today. So those are just an example of some suffixes. Please go to your book and look at the table. And even the tables in the book will not include all the suffixes that there are in the English language. But it's a good start. So in this little presentation, we took a quick look at word roots, prefixes, and suffixes. I hope you're gaining an understanding of how they're used and how effective they can be in changing the meanings of certain words. Next time, we will look at the spelling rules associated with the use of these affixes. So there we have it. We've taken a U-turn away from sound, and we will do so in the next presentation as well before returning to it. Right now, for this presentation and the next, we're focusing on the meaning of words, which will always be important, before we return back to the focus of this entire book and this entire presentation series, the sound in words. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing day.